Hey, how y'all doing? Let's just wait a few more minutes for more people to join. All right. And then I'm gonna get started with this talk. Can you guys hear me just fine? Just to test this? Can you just put it in the chat if you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Um, Eric, you had me, right? For Python, long time ago.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like 1.5 years ago. Maybe.
Yeah. So how has it been? You still interested in coding? Still doing Python?
Yeah, I've just started doing Java
Okay. In school or with AI Go Learning?
with AI Go Learning.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you liking the new teachers, the teachers you've been getting?
Yeah,
Great, great. Yeah, I mean, it's great to see you again here. It's pretty cool. And sorry. Yeah, probably just wait 3 more minutes to 3:10. Hello, Jenna. How you doing? Um, we are just gonna wait 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna get started. Just waiting for more people to come in. Hello, hello. Okay, just a few more seconds. Just looking at the time right now. No, class is not over. Can everybody else hear me just fine? Okay, cool. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna get started now. I'm going to discuss, who I am. Okay, we got more people coming in. Perfect timing. Let's just wait for their audio to connect, and then I'll formally get started. Hello, Linda. We were just about to get started. You joined in the perfect timing. So I was just gonna explain how this talk is gonna go. I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself, and as I do that, I want to ask you guys a few questions. And I would like for this to be interactive. Interact however you want. You can interact, raising your hand, asking a question, or just putting in the chat, and then just keep putting stuff in the chat, and I'll eventually get to it. But as I introduce myself, I want to ask you guys what year of high school you're in. If you're in high school, if you're in middle school, just put that. Whatever year you're in, how long are you expecting until you get to the college application process? Also, this was in the abstract for this talk. So I'm going to discuss things specifically geared toward first-gen low-income immigrants because that's the experience that I had. And I'm going to discuss the sorry, I'm going to discuss this a little bit further in my talk, but that's really the only thing I can discuss. I can only discuss my experience. So put that in the chat if you are a first generation student, meaning that your parents did not attend college, your siblings could have, but just your parents did not. If you would consider yourself low income, and if you would come from an immigrant family, if you were born in the US or not, you can all include that. All right. I'll look to see that in the chat. Okay, but I bet you guys did hear, did read my introduction. I did talk a little bit. There was a little snippet of writing about myself. My name is Rafael, and I really want to say thank you for you guys for taking the initiative to come here and listen to this talk. And this already alone shows that you guys have a great commitment to higher education. So no doubt y'all will do great in the coming years that you will be applying, right? Or maybe months. So I'll briefly talk about myself and then discuss what this talk is about, like I said, and what you guys can expect. It's mostly going to be first gen stuff. So as I stated in my intro, you may have read, I was born in Brazil and I have somewhat of a unique background and recently gone through the college application process. And I hope that my unique background is going to be unique to you guys because coming from a completely different culture, completely different country, it may open your eyes to a few new ideas, that these perspectives are going to be valuable to you. And also, I hope that the time I've taken to, make something out of this college process will be useful to you. A lot of reflection, a lot of ideas I came up with through this journey that really helped me get through it. I guess I'll talk about how I ended up at AI Google Learning. So AI Google Learning, I really see as a blessing, to be honest, in my life, especially because of what AI Google Learning means to me now. I've first heard of it during my sophomore year in high school, which was online. A friend of mine noticed how much I liked helping others in our computer science class, and she offered me an opportunity to kind of do this as a community service or job, right? So do it at AI Google Learning. And from there, I taught, right? I taught Eric Fan here. I then moved on to create the teaching quality team because at the time that was something we really valued, the quality of the teachers, and it was something that we knew would keep AI Google Learning here for the long run, right? It would keep the students coming back, the quality of the teachers. And then during that time, I took the initiative in creating a few projects to help automate certain processes at AI Google Learning. And naturally, I became the president of technology at AI Google Learning. So I just kind of oversaw and developed any type of software that AI Google Learning needed, anything they needed to help manage, data, to help manage students, and anything like that. So I'm fortunate that even before high school, this is something I want to make clear here, is that even before high school, I've seen computer science as a passion that I was pretty set on. So that might be unique in its own way. I know a lot of you guys probably have taken coding classes, so you might have that own experience, but take note that knowing what you want to do so early on is very rare. Very rare. Most people are going to go to college undecided on what they want to do. But the reason why I'm saying that is because the experience that I had here at AI Go Learning just helped me further deepen my passion for computer science, and just using my skills for the common good in a way, teaching people, it was very fulfilling and meaningful to me. So I hope that that's a little bit about myself. So what this talk is going to be about, no, actually, before I get to that, why I'm doing this talk. So I was invited by Dr. Liu. You may know him as Mike. So it's really an honor to, have been invited to do this talk. He's an amazing guy, and I don't think that I would be where I am now if it wasn't for him. So really take advantage of AI Go Learning, guys. Like, you can get a lot of opportunities here. And at the time when I was getting these opportunities, they seemed kind of unimaginable, right? He had a lot of trust in me, a lot of healthy expectations that I could achieve something. The reason why I'm saying this is just to put it in context. What my life has been like. I grew up back in Brazil. I came to the US in 7th grade, and I lived in essentially a farm. It was a rural town of about like 3,000 people. There's high schools bigger than my town, so think about that. And the classes they're ranked from A to D, like quality wise. So like there's the A kids, the B kids, the C kids, and so on. I was a C kid, so I was just barely good enough to not be the worst. And I just hope this gives more context of what my life has been like, to further emphasize just how insane the opportunities AI Go Learning provided to me. And I'm doing this talk to kind of give back, and also talk about my application process, like the objective of this story, of this talk. What I'm going to talk about is going to be introduce myself, talked about why I'm here, and coming next, I'm going to discuss a little bit on how you can prepare. So this preparation phase can start as early as right now, today. Today, you guys can start preparing, right? As early as possible, the better. And these preparation things are just things that I did to help me reach the end of the application process. And although I reached the end of the application process, like I said in the beginning, very briefly, that does not mean I'm an expert. At most, it makes me a simple explorer. I can only really truly talk about my experience. And additionally, the advice that I'll be giving you is completely opinion-based. So if you disagree with it, that is absolutely okay. However, of course, I'm not gonna talk here and say that, the things I did, the things I think are the absolute truth, right? Despite them being opinions, I still want you guys to consider them, because I'll present to you an argument. Why did I make that decision? Why did I do what I did? So if it applies to you, then you could do the same. If it makes sense to you, you will agree with me. But if you see a flaw in my argument, disregard it, right? That's absolutely okay. So speaking of these arguments and this advice that I hope to give you guys, after I talk about what you could do to prepare, I'll give some info on advice on to do as soon as you actually start applying. So that's going to be like beginning of senior year, maybe end of the summer from your junior to senior year in high school. So I'm going to talk about those very specific things as soon as you're applying. And then I will talk about what this all meant to me. You know what I mean? I went through this process, and I've realized a few things. I've thought of a few things. I came across a few insights that have really helped me get through this process with a positive and constructive mindset. And I think that's the most important thing. And then at the end, I'll have some space for questions. But of course, as soon as you have a question, just put it in the chat. And then when I have a pause, when I'm going to a next section of what I'm going to talk about, I'll answer the question before I move on. Another thing, I highly recommend you guys take just brief notes. I will include, you guys have my email, I hope. If not, I'll put it in the chat. And then I would like for you guys to contact me, tomorrow. Let's say you think of something tomorrow, let me know in the coming weeks, in the coming months, in the coming years, and even when you're actually applying to college. So feel free to email me here. And I'm also going to include a few links in the chat, so pay attention to that. Have a notepad, have somewhere where you can save them, because I'm going to include a few blog posts, and I'm also going to include I'll probably be sending you guys an email, because I also have your emails. I'll send everybody here an email of a Google Drive folder that includes all of my application info. Literally everything I applied to, everything I wrote, any information about me, about my application is going to be there. So I hope that helps. Cool. So that's my intro. Now I want to talk about, just for about 10 minutes, I'll probably take to talk about how to prepare, right? And this can start as soon as possible. The first thing I want to talk about is how to ask for help and find information. So I bet many of you have taken coding classes here and have some experience with coding. And just like with coding and many endeavors in life, you're not expected to know everything, but you should know enough to know how and where to find the things that you need to know. So this is something that I taught a lot in my coding classes. You're not expected to memorize all the functions, all the variables, everything that they do. But if you know that they exist and you know where to find them, you're fine, right? So that's essentially the same idea. What I'm trying to say here is that I'm essentially telling you guys that might not know anything about college or might know very little to learn independently before you actually go out to ask for help, right? So do a little bit of independent research to have a decent foundation of knowledge to know what questions to ask, what are the right questions to ask, and who to ask. Very important to do this because this ensures you're efficient with your time. You're not going to be wasting your time asking people questions that you could have searched up. You're not going to be wasting their time. And you're really going to impress them. If you do a lot of research and you ask those good questions, you're going to impress those people. And I'm going to talk about who these people are in a second as well. This independent research that you should be doing can honestly be in any online source. My favorite ones are like the big college ranking websites. They have a lot of information about the college application process. So right now, if you're a junior, for example, beginning of junior year, maybe even sophomore, do not research college in specific. Research about the application process. What is it like to apply to college? You can find this information in a website called US News. Take note of that, US News. Niche, this is how you spell it. And another up and coming one called authority.org. So you can find a lot of information about colleges and, applying to colleges. Other good sources of information is Reddit. I mean, I bet a lot of you guys are familiar with Reddit. There are very good subreddits one called Apply to College. So Apply to College. Very good. There's a lot of information there. You could really search up anything and you'll find it. And even, maybe some Discord servers geared towards college applications, right? Not about colleges, college applications. You can find a lot of information there. Cool. So now you've done a little bit of research on colleges, let's say. And one thing that I'll guarantee you is that the more research you do, the more questions you're going to have, right? You're not going to find more answers. You're just going to be getting more and more questions. And the more research you do as well, the more cryptic, the more mysterious, the more or less exact and quantitative the college application process is going to be. This is something that you're going to have to come in terms with to stay sane, to stay healthy during applying to colleges. So the sooner you come in terms with that idea, the better you'll do. So despite colleges being literally billion-dollar institutions sometimes, the application admissions process will never be black and white, right? A yes or no. I said yes to this kid to come to my college because blah, 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 I said no and I have a set reason. It's more than black and white, and it's more than black and white and gray. It's literally every color you think of. I mean, there's so many edge cases, so many stories that you'll hear. And this is something I wrote in my introduction. There's just so many stories that you can't even believe. Situations and all these situations are unique, yet normal. So it would be the craziest thing, the most, something you've never heard of, but you're like, oh, I would, if you know what the college application process is like, you'd be like, oh, okay, I know, I can expect that, right? So the reason I'm really emphasizing this is that you internalize the idea that no one person will have all the answers as well. The process is so mysterious that no one person will have all the answers, and you probably will never get all the answers. So after getting the strong foundation that I'm telling you about, doing this independent research, you have a good idea of interesting questions to ask and to who. But just like what I'm doing now, I'm speaking about my experience and my experience only. And it's likely that the people you ask for help will do the same. Some will be counselors, for example, who have seen it all really. And within their experience are the experiences of many other students, and they'll give you good answers. But even then, do not hesitate to ask students who you may think don't know anything, classmates, college graduates, or even current college students, right? So ask multiple different counselors the same question as well. If you're fortunate enough to have more than one counselor in your school, access to more than one counselor. So the idea here is try to get as much information that you can to only then begin constructing your own understanding of the college application process. Cool. What I'm saying here makes it sound like scarier than it really is, but it's not. If you do the research, if you know where you're getting yourself into, it's going to be a breeze. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be easy. It's going to be a breeze. Also, when I talk about who to ask for help, I don't want you to constrain yourself to only people immediately near you, right? Like I'm saying here, I had a first-hand experience. I don't have any family that I can talk to. Of course, I have my counselors. I have great counselors, but don't be afraid to look at the forums, like I said, but don't limit yourself to just reading the posts that you see on Reddit, just reading the comments, just reading the threads. Make your own posts. And the most important thing here, the secret is really direct messaging people, right? You see somebody that has an interesting story. You see somebody who you think has a lot of knowledge or who might be going to a school you're already interested in, right? If you're at that stage already, direct message them. They might not answer, but it's just how it is sometimes. But the more people you direct message, the more people you ask for help, even far away from you, like I said, online, the more information you're going to get, the more unique experiences. The reason why I say it's very important, the secret is the direct message, is because no matter how many forums you read, how many comments you read, how much help you ask to counselors, every single time you direct message somebody and ask about their college experience, their college application process, it's going to be completely different than anything you've heard. The reason they pick college X over college Y is something you never even thought of that was possible. So that's why it's very important to direct message. Another great place to do this is LinkedIn. I did this a lot. So I already had a good idea pretty quickly of what schools I wanted to apply to. So I searched up, in my major, obviously, computer science. I searched up, school, blah, 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 computer science on LinkedIn. And then I found a bunch of people that went to that school that did computer science or have some type of computer science experience. Just connected with them. Connecting, if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, do a little bit of research. So I'll put that in the chat. LinkedIn. Create a profile, right? Create an account, build your profile, and start connecting with people. But yeah, I connected to at least 50 different people, multiple people from the same school, because sometimes they just don't answer. They just never answer you. I would say do it in little batches, to be honest, because when I connected with 50 people, I was texting like 15 people a day consistently. And that does take away. I mean, obviously I was doing something constructive. It's not like I was having a small talk with them, but it does take away from the rest of your day, right? It is something that's time intensive. So maybe do 10 at a time, 10 people at a time, 5 people at a time, and so on. Don't do 50 like I did. I guess that's another piece of advice. So right now I just mentioned colleges that you're interested in or a major that you're interested in, and you might not even know how to get started with that. You might not even be close to that, but I'll talk about that soon as well. All right. Another thing under preparing. So I just talked about the importance of asking for help, finding information. Another amazing thing that you can do to prepare, and this is going to be junior year, right? Even before, is to apply to programs. So there's 2 types of programs that I'm going to talk about here, but there's definitely more out there. But I'm going to talk about 2 specific ones that pertain to my experience. So the next thing that you can do besides the independent research and just general communication with people, which, like I said, really just involves gaining more information, which is valuable to make the right decisions, point you into the right direction. But talking to people won't necessarily make you a better applicant. However, there are things you could do to prepare to make yourself a better applicant. One type of program is called a CBO. A CBO is a community-based organization. So I'll write that in the chat as well. Community-based organization. Cool. So these are usually targeted towards low-income minority students or first-gen students, right? So like I said, the talk is going to be really focused on that. They offer you more counselors, more resources. They let you take classes, special classes, and just generally opportunities to improve yourself and even your application to a specific school, right? You might become part of community-based organizations that have year-long programs. So you join your junior year, but you're still part of that organization in your senior year when you're applying. So let's say you're applying to a certain school and you need help with it. You can go and ask them, hey, can you help me with this application? And they will read it. They will read your stuff. They'll help you express yourself better. But the good thing is that they will make you better. Okay. Another important thing here is not only can they help with your application, they will make you a better applicant. Just the fact that you're part of a community-based organization says a lot, right? Being first gen, low income, minority, and being part of these programs, it really shows you're interested in higher education. It really shows that you're going beyond just what your family can offer. And what resources you would have if you weren't searching for them, right? So it shows that you are searching for help. Another thing, these CBOs, they're competitive. Some of them are competitive. So just the fact that you're in already shows the college like, wow, this kid, he's good, right? He was able to get into this program. Cool. And with a 1-second search on community-based organizations, search up like college community-based organizations, you're gonna find a bunch. I can list them till tomorrow morning here, how many there are. But I highly recommend you try to apply as many as you can. If you can get into 2 or 3, that is exceptional. And even 1 will be of an astronomical help, especially if you're first gen and whatnot. I only applied to 1 called Thrive Scholars, and I got in, fortunately. So just so you guys have an idea of what Thrive Scholars is, and I highly recommend you guys apply to that. So I'll put that in the chat as well. We spent 6 weeks during the summer between my junior and senior year at Amherst College. So Amherst College is like one of the top institutions here in the US for liberal arts. You might not know what liberal arts mean, but you'll learn that in your independent research. Everything was paid for. The flight to get there was paid for. The classes, the rooms, everything was paid for. Food, everything. And we took English and math classes, but we also had extensive workshops on college applications. Sorry, my camera is lagging a little bit, but we had a lot of info on that. College essay writing, decision making, and just a lot of financial help as well. They would give you money. They would give you help if you needed it, and emotional support as well, especially since this process can be a little tough. Honestly, I don't know a word yet to describe how good that experience was, like how influential a CBO can be. It's just amazing. And it greatly affected everyone's life that was there. So it was a bunch of kids there. It was like actually 300 kids. And whenever we talk about it, their eyes light up, when we're just remembering the experiences and the good times that we had there. And although it was a lot of fun, obviously, like I said, every day we had 6 hours of class during the summer. So it's a challenge. You're really taking on a challenge. So now with Thrive Scholars, this coming year, I'll be going to the University of Chicago, another top institution for the summer between my senior and freshman year of college. It's the same idea. It's going to be the same people. We're going to be taking different classes though. And I can only really talk about Thrive Scholars because that's the only one I was in, but I've heard of other people that are in different ones and they're all amazing, other CBOs. But whenever I ask somebody that went to Thrive, right, we call it Thrive. and you ask about their experience, they're always gonna say something along the lines of like, "Oh man, if it wasn't for Thrive, I wouldn't have fill in the blank. I wouldn't have achieved this. I wouldn't have made it to this school." So CBOs really, really help. So definitely look into that and do research on different ones. Cool. Any questions so far? As you guys are having questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and then when I have these pauses, I'll answer them. Next type of program I'm going to talk about. So this is still preparing for college, right? I'm still in the preparing for college section. They're called fly-ins. So once again, this is targeted towards minorities, first-gen low-income students. If you meet any of these criterias or a combination of them, you'll definitely have the chance of going to a fly-in. I'll put that here, fly-in, fly-in. They're called fly-ins because you essentially apply for a fully paid visit to any university that offers it. So some universities have fly-ins, some don't. And there's a reason why some do and some don't, and I'll talk about that. Usually these visits are about 2 to 3 nights. Everything is paid for. But some schools like Caltech, if you're familiar, it's a really good school in California. It's a whole week. So you actually get to, kids from New Jersey get in, boom, they fly you to California, the other side of the country. You stay there for a week, eating for free, sleeping for free, everything free. But one thing is you're not going there on vacation because your schedule is going to be absolutely packed with activities, places to go, things to do, people to meet, workshops to attend, panels of directors, panels of officers of that specific school. Right. You like I said, you're going to spend multiple days there. So you're going to be sleeping in somebody's dorm, somebody that's sleeping, that lives in the school. They're called a host usually. So a student of the school will allow you to dorm with them for the time that you stay there. What I recommend is to apply to as many as you can. At this point, you might not even know what type of schools you're looking at. You like, or what specific schools you'd like to attend. Sometimes these programs are STEM focused, humanity focused, any type of focus you can think of, or no focus at all. You just go to visit. And whatever you're leaning towards, humanities, STEM, computer science, anything, just apply. Just apply. Some of them are for women only, which is good. STEM, women in STEM type of thing. So those are really, really nice. But like I said, apply to as many as you can, because it's not about, oh, I'm applying to this school's fly-in because I'm interested in going there. That's not the reason you're applying. You might not even know anything about the school, but apply anyways. The reason why you're doing that is because you don't even know what it's like to be on a college campus. If you don't have anybody else in your family that attended, you don't know what it's like. People can describe to you what it's like, but you will never know. You'll never feel it. But the fly-in is a great opportunity for low-income people to fly there, go visit, go stay there for multiple days, talk with the people there, and really be immersed in that experience of being in a college campus. So I can talk here a lot about the benefits of that, but the main one is obviously you're going to get to experience the college campus. And why is that important? It's important to experience the college campus because then you'll have an idea of what you value in a school. So a lot of you may be thinking like, oh, I just want to go to a school that wants me. I just want to go to a school that offers good financial aid. I just want to go to a school that has the major I want to major in. And that's how I thought as well. But the more research you do, you will always find something that you value. You will always find a school that has it and a school that doesn't. And that's very, very important, because right now you may be thinking that whatever is good for you, but it's not. Going to these fly-ins, applying to these fly-ins, doing this research, you will find things that matter to you, and then you will want that in your college experience. And that's what's going to help build your list of colleges. So I'm going to talk about building a college list as well. Yeah. So I talked about this. I'm just looking at my notes. So, okay, cool. So that's why it's important to apply to fly-ins. Apply to as many as you can. Any type of school. It might be like, let's say you're really set on computer science. Go to a school that doesn't even have computer science. Just go. Just go to see. It's free anyways. If you get in, it's free. Because it is a little competitive as well. The next thing I was going to talk about is how these programs usually open during the summer between junior to senior year. So if you're a junior right now, I guess I just gave you homework for the summer. If you thought you were going to be bored during the summer, now you have something to do. If you're a sophomore, freshman, or in middle school, I don't know if they would admit you. I think you have to be a rising senior, right? You have to be going into your senior year. So then you apply during the summer. They open during the summer. They have a due date. So pay attention to the due date. And then the decisions will come in early senior year. And then you're going to go visit the schools early senior year as well. So you might have missed a few days of school as well, which is nice. Definitely a plus. You're going to be doing something productive, not just skipping school. Yeah, okay, another hidden benefit. So I can talk a lot about the benefit, and I did talk a lot about the benefits of these flying, but a hidden benefit is that the application style for these programs is very, very similar to college applications. Sometimes it's the exact same. For example, one that I know is Bowdoin College, another amazing, amazing school. It's the exact same question. Exact. So for college apps, I'm going to send you guys what my college apps look like. You have to do a little bit of writing if you didn't know that. They're going to ask you a question like, why do you want to come to the school? Why do you think you would be a good student here? What happened in your life that was significant? They might just ask you random things too, like if you could have a superpower, what would it be? And then you had to write an essay on that. So it's pretty fun. Some of them are fun, some of them are not so much. But generally, if you like writing, you'll have a good time. But what I'm trying to get to here is that applying to these fly-ins, it would give you an early experience to applying to colleges. And I feel like if I didn't apply to fly-ins, I would have been in a bad situation when applying, because I was already so used to applying to fly-ins. And then when I opened a college app, I was like, oh, I know what to do. You know what I mean? I already know what to do. So that was great. Okay, and I talked about Bowdoin College that has the exact same question. And look at this. Another thing I want to touch on is that when you get the decisions back from these fly-ins, I know of people that got into Ivy League schools. The best schools in the nation are low income, minority, first gen, and applied to 20 fly-ins and didn't get into a single one. A single one. I'm serious, 20 fly-ins. And this is the crazy stories that I'm telling you about. How is a student capable of getting into an Ivy League, the best type of school, one of the best types of schools you can get into? Most competitive, let's put it that way, not necessarily the best, but not get into a single fly-in, right? It just doesn't make sense, and there's no way to find out why. But what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes when these decisions come back, if you were accepted or not, in the decision, like when they say, oh, you got accepted or not into the fly-in, they're gonna have in bold and big letters, this is not an admissions decision. This is not an admissions decision. If you got accepted, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the school likes you necessarily to be a student there. If you got rejected, that doesn't mean the school hates you and you won't get in. Because like I said, Bowdoin College, a lot of their admits, a lot of the people that are going got rejected from the fly-in. Got rejected. So getting in, like I said, getting in, not getting in doesn't mean anything. Just, have fun applying, really enjoy and make the most out of the ones you do get in. And truly, truly, if I'm telling you this, is because the decision of the fly-in does not mean anything. Okay, it does not mean anything in any particular way, shape, or form. I really want to, hammer this nail in the head to make sure you guys understand this. When you're applying to fly-ins, you're going to apply to a bunch of them. It's hard work, and it's disappointing when you get a bad decision. But it does not mean it's an admissions decision. And if you apply to a fly-in like the one of Bowdoin, you already have a very good foundation to put it in your college app, your actual college app there. So you're getting a head start, that not a lot of kids are getting because they don't even know fly-ins exist. What else was I going to talk about fly-ins? Oh, why some schools don't have it and why some schools do. The schools that have it, obviously, they want to give these low income first gen students opportunities that they wouldn't have, right? A lot of kids have the money to just say, hey, let me get a plane ticket and go to this college, stay in a hotel nearby, and just talk with professors in there. A lot of kids can't do that. Some colleges are very far. Some colleges are in very expensive towns, so you can't sleep there. But these fly-ins offer that opportunity. However, the only reason why a school wouldn't offer this is because an amazing person applies to their fly-in, they get rejected, and now that amazing person does not apply to the school, and the school just missed out on an amazing student. That is true. That is true. I've heard a school that does that is Cornell University, an Ivy League institution. They do not have a fly-in because they know that sometimes you just can't offer the spots to the kid, no matter how amazing they are. But you would offer them admission. But because you rejected them on the fly-in, they're like, Cornell doesn't want me anyways. I'm not gonna apply. Forget them, right? But that's not true. Like I said, it does not mean anything. Uh, okay. That was about preparation. Now, so programs you can apply to. I talked about doing research, independent research, talking to people, direct messaging, forums, Discords, Reddits, LinkedIn, CBO, community-based organizations like Thrive Scholars, and fly-ins. Now I'm going to talk about advice when you're actually applying to the schools. So I do have to move a little bit faster here because we're running out of time. But I still want to give you guys, put in the chat. If you're ready to keep going, put in the chat a thumbs up and we'll keep going. If not, take a 35-minute break if you don't use the bathroom. I've been talking for a bit here, about half an hour talking. So if you just need to take in everything that I'm saying, let me know. But if you're ready to go, just put in the chat, give it a thumbs up like Jenna is ready. But I'll give you guys those 3 to 5 minutes to just do whatever. Yeah, get up and stretch. Use the bathroom, get that blood flowing so that we can be focused for the second half, which I'm gonna have to condense into 15 minutes, 13 minutes. When you are ready, put the thumbs up so I know. Okay. Is everybody here? Let me see a reaction, a thumbs up, so we can get back to this. All right, let's get started. Now what I want to talk about is how are you going to do college search? How are you going to find the schools that you want to apply to? I would say, and how to build that list. I would say that about 12 schools in your list is good. A lot of people apply to more, a lot of people apply to less. 12 list, I think 12 schools is very solid. So 12 schools in your list. And you might be thinking like, how, Rafael, how am I going to find 12 schools? How can I apply to that many? That sounds like a lot, but it's not really. If you take the time to really work on this, it's doable. So try to hit 12. Try to hit 12. And you want to divide it into 3 categories: safety, targets, and reaches. Okay, there isn't a limit, Jenna, actually. Some people apply to like 100 schools. There isn't a limit, but that's insane. That's insane. 100 schools is insane. A lot of kids apply to 30. That's insane. I applied to 17. A lot of people do 20. Some people even do 5. It's depends what you're going for. So you guys probably have heard of safety, targets, and reaches. And if you haven't, you'll definitely hear of this when you're doing any type of college research. But one thing I want to say is that the meaning of safety reaches changes person by person. So make sure you have a good judgment into what bracket you fall in to build your school. Because, for example, a very stellar student can change the proportion of schools that are commonly seen as reaches in their list. So let's say a really good kid could have 6 to 8 reaches in their list of 12 and 2 targets, 2 safeties, right? But a more normal applicant, a more list that you're going to see is 3 reaches, 5 targets, 4 safeties, right? Something more even. But depending where you think you fall, you can change that proportion. Cool. Now about building that list, I would say you can begin building it as soon as possible, to be honest. And the earlier the better. The earlier the better. But you can really do it at any time, as long as you're giving yourself a good amount of time to work on the applications before the deadlines, because the deadlines are hard. There's no, oh, sorry, I submitted a second late. A second late is too late. But yeah, as soon as possible. The way I would do it is just name schools. If you know a lot of colleges, just write them down. Like, oh, I would like to go here. Oh, there's this college near my house. I'll probably go there. Just write down a bunch of names. You might end up with 20 schools. You might end up with 10 schools in that list, or less than 10. But the point here is just to get something down. Then divide those schools into the 3 categories that I talked about. Remember, have good judgment. You know what I mean? What schools can you reasonably be confident that you can go in? If you're unsure how to make that decision, talk with your counselors. They'll be honest, sometimes brutally honest. So be careful with that. Okay, so now you have these schools divided, and depending on the proportion that you want of safeties, targets, and reaches, see what your current list look like. Does it have too many reaches or whatnot? And then work so that it's balanced. Okay. So that's one way to build your list, and then add more schools, do more research, and just repeat that process. Add schools, put in the category, make sure it's proportional, add schools, remove schools, and so on. And then after you have a good list, then start doing specific research on things that matter to you. If you're very low income, financial aid might not matter, because good schools will usually just give you a full ride if your family does make under a certain amount of money a year. Right. And then you want to start searching up things that matter to you. The best place to find anything is common data set. So search up any school name, common data set. You're going to find a huge PDF of a bunch of accurate information provided by the school on whatever. But at this point that you're already building your list, you probably already attended a few fly-ins. You probably already did a lot of research on some schools. So you might know what you value. Let's say you like a big school, a smaller school, a school with good food, a school with good dorms. If that's something you value, start categorizing. How far is the school away from you? How many undergraduates does it have? How many majors does it have? Does it have your major? How good is it, honestly? And just start getting all this info, all this data, put it into a spreadsheet, and then make decisions from there. Because at this point, you could have 30 schools or 5. If you have 5, then you want to add more. If you have 30, then you want to take away. So you're going to find all these stats and see, oh, okay, this school, it's too far away from home. Take it out. The school is too big. Take it out, and so on. So, speaking of what to value, you may not even know what matters to you in a school, right? You just want to go to someone that has a good education, like I said, but coming from the background that, and you might feel the same way that I felt. Coming from the background that I came from, it almost feels unfair and not humble to start nitpicking here and there on what these amazing institutions offer. But like I said, if you research, you're gonna find stuff that you care about. All right. And oh yeah, this will also be recorded. If you guys can stay, I know it has to end at 4, but there's a lot of things I want to talk about. This will be recorded. I'll keep talking here like a podcast style, and then I'll send you guys the video. That's cool because we're reaching the end, but there's still a lot more I want to talk about. I'll get everybody's email. I'll send you guys the recording. And yes, but okay, let's continue. What to value. So you might not know what to value. You might not know what to do. You might feel weird nitpicking, like, the school, the food is not that good. The dorms are not that big. But in reality, all you want is an education. But do nitpick. Do nitpick because there is a school that's going to have a good education like you want, and it's going to have the things that you want as well. Okay, so it doesn't help that I said you'll find something, right? It doesn't help you know what you like. But like I said, now again is another time to go back to Reddit, to go back to LinkedIn, to go back to the counselors and start researching about schools in specific. So when I described here using Reddit, LinkedIn, and the counselors, you're asking about the college application. But now ask about schools. School X versus school Y. Text someone and email them this. What type of schools did you apply to? And why did you pick the one you picked? Because usually people will apply to similar type schools. And if they picked one out of schools that are essentially the same, there's a reason. There's a reason. And that reason is going to surprise you every single time you ask somebody. So this is a great thing to do. I'm going to put this in the chat. Ask people what types of schools they apply to and why they picked the one they did. The one they did. Very important. Okay, but now I'm going to talk about, and if you don't even, so then when the person tells you why they picked it, it might resonate with you. You might, I would also pick a school if it had that. I would also pick a school if it did not have this, right? That this person is talking about. So then if you're really unsure as well, you can ask your counselor. So your counselors in your school, they will know what type of student you are. They will know your personality a little bit, and they can talk to you about what styles of schools fit you. Okay. I want to talk about things that I value. I value student happiness. So certain websites like US News, Niche, and Authority, they will go to campuses and survey the students and see how happy they are. And I really value that because it speaks a lot about quality of life. The reason why I value this a lot is because I don't have it. My high school experience was amazing the first few years, but then senior year, it was a huge decline. I feel bad for the kids that are coming in, to be honest. So that's why I value quality of life so much. Because you may be thinking, I can't go to a good place and be happy. You can. You can go to a good place and be happy. You can definitely do both. It's a spectrum. Maybe if you don't go to the most amazing place, you might not be as happy. But if you just dial it down a little bit, you can be very, very happy there. Another thing that I value is quality of food, dorms, campus culture and events. So I'm not necessarily talking about partying and just doing stupid things. I'm talking about clubs. I'm talking about activities, sports. I'm talking about constructive things that you can do in campus outside of class, right? So those are some of the things I value. But it's already 4 p.m. I want to say thank you all for coming here. I want to respect your time, and I know you have other events to join. If you're interested, just stay. I'm gonna keep talking here because all of this is being recorded. And then I'm gonna send you guys the video because there's still a lot of advice I want to talk about. So if you're gonna leave, thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye. Have a good day. I hope your other events are very nice. But if you're gonna stay, welcome. Feel welcome here, and I'll keep talking. All right. Back to it. Other things I value. Also, looks like nobody's leaving. That's great. I'm happy now. Other things I value: the quality of the students. So I talk about quality of life, but quality of students also matter to me. So I really wanted to get into a selective school. There's that saying that you don't want to be the smartest one in the room. And I think that's really true. You do not want to go to a school where you're going to be the best one there because you're not going to learn. You already hit the ceiling. There's no more to grow. But if you go to a school where you're bottom of the class, honestly, you're the worst student there. That if you channel it and if you think about it in the right perspective, if you do the right things, you might not ever reach the top. But what I'm trying to say here is that based off of your performance, you're going to improve so much. You understand what I'm trying to say? You will probably not be the best in the school, but that's okay. The thing here is comparing yourself to yourself. Are you better than what you were yesterday? That's the biggest thing. So I wanted to go to a really selective school where I would be challenged. Not only did I want to go to a selective school, I want to go to a selective school where the kids are passionate. And then maybe you wonder, well, Rafael, how is it possible that a selective school is going to pick a kid that's not passionate? I'm going to tell you what happens because this process, like I said, it's not black and white and gray. It's every single color. Crazy things happen. So I'm not saying that these students that aren't passionate in getting to selective schools are incompetent. They're bad students. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say here is that these kids, and I'm going to expand on this later in the just very soon. These kids, they did everything they did their whole life, their whole high school experience to get into that selective school. But they didn't mean it. They didn't do it with passion. So what I'm talking about here is when I come to teach at AI Grow Learning, when I was teaching, when I was doing the work, when I was helping the teachers, when I was leading the projects, I was passionate. I was doing that because I wanted to do it and I was happy doing it. So that's why I feel like I would be such a good classmate to another computer science student because I'm passionate about it. But there might be a kid who maybe just did computer science because of the money, right? They weren't really passionate about it. They didn't really like it. They were good enough. They practiced a lot. They had good discipline, good work ethic. That's an amazing student, good work ethic and discipline. But they had a miserable time getting into college. And then during college, their experience is going to be miserable as well because they just keep going with this fake thing in their life. They're not doing anything for passion. It's all just fake. So I wanted to select the students that are passionate about what they do. And you may be wondering, well, how do you find that? It's a little bit more tricky. You have to talk with people. You have to talk with counselors. You have to go and experience the school, talk with the students of that school to see if they're passionate. I talked with a kid from Columbia University, if you're familiar with that, another Ivy League institution, one of the best schools, one of the most selective, one of the best schools in the nation. I was talking to the kid, he's doing computer science, and I'm like, what got you into Columbia? And he's like, honestly, dude, I didn't even remember applying. I just opened my email one day and I had the decision. And that was that. So that's very weird. So that kid got into selective school, but not passionate about what he really does. Didn't really mean to get into the school, doesn't really like the school. He just got in. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is a school mission. So school mission is very important. Each school has a kind of a goal of what they want to do. And if that resonates with you, then it's likely that you're going to be a good fit for that school. Also, liberal arts versus research universities. So you may not know what this means, but professors that are in a research university, they're not really there to teach. They're there to do research. So they just happen to teach. That's what I'm trying to say. They go there to do research and they happen to teach. So they're not going to be really good teachers. However, the opportunities you would have in that school are amazing because it's a research university. So they get a lot of money, a lot of funding. And you can do your own research with the professors as well. They're usually bigger schools as well. So you're not going to have a very intimate relationship with all the students and the professors themselves. However, a liberal arts school, the professors that go there, they go to teach. So they are teachers. They are good at teaching. And that's what I value personally. I would rather go to a liberal arts school that doesn't have as many, it may not seem to have as many resources, but I know that I'm going to go there and the professor in the class, he's going to be happy to be there to teach. He's going to be helping me. And liberal arts are usually smaller, so I'll have closer relationships with the professors themselves and my classmates. Another thing that I looked at was retention rate. So this essentially means how many kids stick with the school. So if 30% of the class drops out the first year, that's because they were really unhappy with the school. So don't go to that school because there's a 30% chance you're going to dislike it. So go to a school that has like a 90% retention rate. Really good, really big names like MIT, Harvard, they have it like 99% retention rate. Only a few people drop out. Another thing that I looked at is endowment per student. If the endowment per student, if you don't know what endowment is, it's essentially money that the people who graduated from the school give to the school. They donate like a gift. And also the government. The government also helps in endowment because the government wants to make sure that these schools are there educating the people, right? So endowment per student is essentially how much money they have per student. A school like Bowdoin College that I've been talking about, they have about $1.5 million per student, but they only have 2,000 students there, right? And what I'm trying to get to here is another top school like Cornell University. It's a very big school. They are not going to have a lot of endowment per student. They're going to have a higher total endowment, but since they have 15,000 students there, per student, it's going to be less. The reason why per student is very important is think about how much money they have to give, to provide resources for each student. So that's very important. You want to go to a school that has a high endowment per student because it's doesn't necessarily mean that they will give you more resources, but it's a great indication that they will. Cool. Jenna, send me some questions here. I'm also getting some other questions and I'll talk about them at the end of this. Or I'll just email you guys if I don't get to do that. Okay. So this is regarding, so the topic that I'm on right now, just to recap, because I've been talking a lot, you might be a little lost. What I'm talking about right now is things you could do when you're applying to the schools. So what have I talked about? I've talked about where and how to search for schools, how to build your list, and what to value. So how do you pick what school that's going to stay in your list, what school that's going to be taken out of the list? Now, what I'm going to talk about is something called applying sideways. So like I said, I'm going to be sending you guys a few links. I'm going to put this link in the chat. I really want you guys to save this link. Save this link and read it later. Applying sideways, the idea of applying sideways. So your body's not going to be sideways when you apply, but it's that's kind of the idea. You're not directly applying. And when I was talking about passionate students, I mentioned I would expand on that later, and this is what I'm talking about. Passionate students apply sideways. You want to apply sideways. Apply sideways means that you do what you do because you're passionate about it. You do it well, you put in the work, and schools will notice it. That's the idea of applying sideways. You're not working to get into a certain school. You're not working to be a good college student. You're doing what you like to do. You're passionate about it. You're good at it. You work, you put in the work, the schools will notice. If you're good, the schools will notice. That's the idea of applying sideways. If you are early in high school, right. If you aren't in high school yet, that's great for applying sideways. In high school, look for things you're passionate about. Don't go take the AP chemistry class if you hate chemistry just to tell the college that you took AP chemistry. You hate it. You're not going to be passionate about it. The college, sometimes they can pick up on these fake things. But if you're in an early high school, that's also perfect. You can still catch up and do things that you're passionate about, and stop doing things just to impress colleges. But if you are an upperclassman, that is absolutely okay as well. But what I really want you guys to stop and think about are the things that you did because you liked them, because you were passionate. There were definitely things that you did. So if you know, the example I gave of the AP Chem class, if you took that AP Chem class just because of the college and you don't really like it, don't talk about that in your college application. Don't. Really think and reflect about the things that you really love. Get rid of the AP Chemistry and put the things that you love there. You did things that you like because you liked them. You did it. They could be small things. It doesn't have to be big things. And I'll expand on that just a second as well. So yes, things that you're amazing, you know, that you're passionate about. Don't flex to colleges something that you're not genuine about. Another thing that I just said I was going to expand on is you don't have to be amazing to get into amazing colleges. You don't have to be amazing. What do I mean by that? Is you do not have to have done things that make you amazing. If that makes sense. You don't need achievements necessarily. You may also not have anything you're passionate about, to be honest. And that's completely fine. So I talked a lot about being passionate, applying sideways, but you may not be passionate about anything. So I'm going to talk about that. So, right, even despite everything I said, not being passionate is fine. However, there's a trick, there's a little twist there. Colleges obviously want people who have achieved much in what they love. But another thing that colleges want are kids with demonstrated potential. Because this is something I noticed very late in my college application, which was bad. And I'll talk about it in the next section. Basically, though, colleges are not there to necessarily welcome people who have done everything they wanted to do in life. The college will feel useless because the purpose of the school is to serve the student, is to give something to the student. But if the student already did everything, what purpose is the school serving? Let's say you're really passionate about computer science and you take all the courses that a school offers. Why would you go there? They have nothing else to give. So, of course, having done a lot, having a lot of projects, having a lot of experience, a lot of passion, hyper focus on what you're passionate about, it's fine. That's amazing. That is amazing. But if you don't have that, understand you go to school to learn. That's kind of the most obvious example. If you already know everything, why go to school? You go to learn. You go to learn. So, you know, basically colleges are not there to necessarily welcome people who have done everything. So like I said, if you have done a lot of things, a lot of projects, a lot of hyper focus on computer science, let's say, you're going to be an amazing asset to the school, but you're no better than the kid who has never touched a computer for computer science, because you might know so much about computer science and a kid who has never touched a computer will take your spot. They will take your spot because you are no better than them to the college, because colleges also value insatiable, like hunger for learning. They're going to want a kid that wants to learn. So if there's nothing you're passionate about, if you can show the colleges that you really like learning, that whatever you learn, you're good at, you practice, you try, you work hard on it, that's probably like one of the best applications you can have. So different styles of applicants. You can have an applicant that has done everything. You can have an applicant that hasn't done anything, but they want to do things. Colleges really like this person because the colleges will provide them the resources to do whatever they want. Yeah, to conclude, colleges want people that like to learn. All right, take note of that link, please. The blog that I sent in the chat, save that. Okay, so what I just talked about is things to prepare. How do you prepare yourself? Search for colleges, build your list, know what to value, and apply sideways, if possible, apply sideways. If there's nothing you're passionate about, be good at whatever you do. Work hard at whatever you do, right? Show the college that you like to learn. And then you're going to be just as good as somebody who cured cancer. Like if you want to go into doctor school and a kid cured cancer, but you have so much potential for learning, they might pick you. They might. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about curing cancer because the process, the blog that I sent in the chat says that. So pretty funny. All right, moving on to this next section. This next section is not about anything to do to make you a better applicant. It's not about being better, becoming better. It's not about gaining more knowledge necessarily, but these are ideas that I've thought of, reflections. So this is the reflection section. I want to talk about what I reflected on and what this process really means to me. You know, what I learned, the insights that I found that helped me get through this process. First thing I want to talk about is the potential thing that I ranted a lot about because it was something I was extremely guilty of. Not understanding the potential and the different types of applicants, the applicant that likes to learn and the applicant that has learned. So the reason why I say I'm guilty of it is because I'm comfortable saying that I have done a lot regarding computer science. I've taught computer science. I have a lot of projects. I have a personal blog. I have a lot of things, a lot of knowledge. But I would see kids that took one coding class and they would get into extremely good schools for computer science. And I'm puzzled. I'm like, I don't, and it might have even bothered me. And I'm not understanding why. Because I'm like, well, how come there was probably a kid out there who had done just as much as I did, but he got his spot taken by this kid that has never barely touched a computer, barely knows what an if statement is, right? I know all you guys are familiar with that. So that puzzled me, might have bothered me, and it's weird to think about it. But the students that have never touched a computer, they were not any less competent than the one that was very experienced. Like I said, obviously they weren't less competent. They weren't dumber. They weren't worse. It's just that idea that I talked about. They were just competent people in general. If you want to do computer science, the college will provide you with the knowledge to build you up. If you have in a way already built yourself, that is amazing. But do not fall for the frustration that I fell in, thinking that, oh, because I'm more experienced in computer science, I should have gotten that spot versus the kid who isn't. That has nothing to do with your current knowledge. It's how much you want to learn, how good of a student will you be in that college, and how much will you take advantage of the things they offer you. The school might have looked at me and said, oh, this kid already knows everything. Why are we going to take him in? There's no point, right? He's not going to learn anything here. So this is a mindset that's completely backwards. It's a bad mindset. Do not have it. I was luckily able to think outside of the box, notice that this thing in my head was wrong, and I fixed it and I learned from it. So I'm telling you guys now, do not fall into that frustration of not understanding why one person, why not you, this and that, and why not that other person who, and whatnot. I've ranted a lot about this already. Next I'm going to talk about is vision. vision. So this was in the abstract. This is kind of like the most important part of the talk really, even though it's not the end. Vision, vision, vision. What do I mean by that? Look beyond the college. This is really the only way you're going to be truly happy with wherever you go. What I'm trying to say here is college is not a destination. It's just part of the path provided to you to get to your destination. Let me expand on this. If this makes you feel better, right? Many software engineers, I'm assuming a lot of you guys want to do computer science. A lot of software engineers don't have college degrees. I'm not saying that you should not go to college. You should drop out. I'm just saying that there are many paths that lead to the same place. And this is also one of the best ways to deal with rejection. If you got rejected from somewhere, that is fine. It simply means that a door closed. But when door closes, another one opens. And all of these doors, if you want, they lead to the same place. Right? Of course, you want to attend that top institution. Of course, you want to have that really high quality education. But the takeaway here is that the turn you take in the path, where you go in your path of life, does not determine the length of the path, does not determine how high you can go, how much you can achieve, right? A kid that goes to a bad school versus a good school, that does not mean that in the future, they won't be just as good. And when I say good, I mean successful in whatever success means to you. You know, it's just like that saying as well. If you seek it, you'll find it. If you want your path to reach a certain destination, your path will reach that destination. Of course, every path, some might be shorter, some might be longer, to be honest. And that's just the reality of things. So a better school might provide you the chances to get to your destination faster, but that doesn't mean you won't get there. I'm not going to sugarcoat and lie to you guys about this. So some paths will be harder than others. Some paths will be easier for whatever reason. But if you want it bad enough, if you want it really bad, you will end wherever you want. You pick where the destination of your path goes. It might be long, it might be squiggly, it might make a lot of turns, but you're going to get there. Cool? Other thing I want to talk about. I think this is the last thing I want to talk about. This is very impactful to me. This is the biggest insight that I had regarding the college application process. So I talked about in this section, potential, do not fall into that frustration. And I talked about vision. Look beyond the college. The college is not your destination. You have to keep focused, hyper-focused beyond the college. That is also one of the only ways that you will be happy with wherever you go. If you're thinking about the college that you're going to, you're not going to be happy. But if you're thinking about where it's going to take you, the path, the journey, then you will be happy. Okay, the third and final thing I'm going to talk about regarding reflections, ideas that I had, is freedom. Yeah, can you guys put in the chat, are you guys first gen? First gen meaning that you are the first people in your family, not the first people in your family, but did your parents go to college or not? If you guys are comfortable putting that, if you could just DM it to me as well, if you don't want to put that in the general chat. But this talk about freedom really involves the idea of first gen. Okay, getting some responses here. Some people are first gen. All right. Okay. You probably hear a lot. Let me get to this. You probably hear a lot that higher education means freedom. Higher education means free. Higher education is college. Means freedom. But being so young, you might not even understand what that means, right? If you're not first gen, higher education does not necessarily mean freedom to your family either. Like I said, this talk is geared toward first gen. However, if you are like first gen like me, it really does mean freedom. It really does. Higher education does mean freedom. I always had the instinct that it did mean freedom, but I never really understood exactly why. Because I would ask myself, but I am free. I'm free. I can do whatever I want, right? My siblings are free. They can do whatever they want. My parents are free. Maybe. I don't know. So I would think about that. Am I free or am I not free? So I wasn't really sure, but it was until I had a convention where they had a motivational speaker, Brian. His name was Brian. And right away, he gave a big talk to like hundreds of kids, and I could tell he was special, right? He was different. He was a different breed of person. He was very, very nice. And then throughout the day, so after that big event for hundreds of kids, there were little ones throughout the day. And I happened to sign up for one that was by him. I didn't know it was by him. These little events were like 20 kids, but I didn't know it was by him. It was just a big surprise when I walked into the room and I saw that it was him. I was like, wow, I'm gonna get to be sitting right in front of this guy, right? And he talked about what motivational speakers talk about. He talked about staying motivated to continue to work despite not feeling good some days. What motivational speakers do. But then at the end, he gave us the opportunity to ask a few questions, and I had some tough ones in the trigger for him. I had some good ones. The main one was that in the talk, like that he just did to like those 20 kids that he just talked about, he talked about the importance of working on yourself. Be that by reading books, learning independently, working out, doing a sport, anything to improve yourself. So he talked about that, and my question was regarding that. So I told him, look, I am a great believer that the best way that you can give and contribute to your community is to be in the best shape possible. So I don't necessarily mean the best shape physically. I just mean in the best state of any metric you could think of, right? Being happy, be physically active, being the captain of a soccer team, right? You are there to lead. You can help your community. I thought that. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is, you would have to be well off to be useful to others. That's what I thought, and I believe that like to the T. I was a great believer in that. And he agreed in that too when I told him that I'm a great believer that you must be working on yourself to be useful to your community. So I asked him. He said he agrees. So I asked him, since you're always helping so many people, how do you keep yourself well to be able to contribute to your community? He took, like, how does he work on himself to help others? So he paused for a good minute. He paused for a good minute to think for an answer, and I knew something good was coming up. Obviously, he couldn't just say that he was perfect. He couldn't. You can't say that. He couldn't say that he had no flaws and that he had no sad days, that he was always energetic, always ready to help others. What he told me then was life-changing, because he said that you do not necessarily have to be the best at something in the best state possible to be of use to others. And when he said that, I was like, wow, right? That's so obvious. That's so obvious. But at the same time, it hit me so hard, because you may not be feeling great that day, but you can make someone else feel great. That's kind of what I thought. You could think of it this way as well. Despite not having it all, despite not being the number one, despite not being the best, you always have something to give that will help your community. And when he said this, right, like I said, it was just so obvious. I kind of felt stupid that I had always thought that I needed to be the best to help others. That I thought the best move, like let's say real life is a video game. The best move I can make for my community is to work on myself. That sounds a little selfish, but bear with me here. I'm going to talk about that. So the best move I can make to help others was to work on myself. So he said it was life-changing, but how does this connect to freedom? Well, a few days later after that convention, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I asked myself, why did my mother not do that? She did not work on herself to contribute to those near her. She just always gave, and like never improved herself. Yet she was helpful. She wouldn't improve herself, but she was helpful. And I was like, well, this doesn't fit with this doesn't sit right with me. It's not, I wouldn't think that that's possible, right? So I wonder why she did not think the way I did. So then I came to the big conclusion. The big conclusion is that sometimes the best move you can make to help others around you, to help your community, is not working on yourself, but instead giving everything you got till the last drop to someone else so that they can improve. Being a mentor in a way. And that's essentially the game my mom is playing. In her life, if you think of life like a video game, my mother really only had one move: sacrifice herself for me and my siblings. It was never an option for her. Like, let's say in the buttons she could click, in the moves she could make, in the cards she had. She only had one card. She couldn't, a move that she wanted to make, if she wanted to work on herself, she couldn't. The only move she had was to sacrifice herself for us, was to give us everything that she had. And of course, she does this with a smile on her face, and she's very glad to do this and work for us, right? She loves us. I love her. However, she is not free. This is the connection with freedom. She only has one move. She can't do whatever she wants. She only has one move. She is not free. And that's when it all clicked that higher education would give me more moves, more cards to play, more buttons to press, more actions to make in the video game of life in a way. But another big lesson here is that you do not have to be the best to help others, right? However hard you are working to become better, take the time to help others. You may be studying really hard. You may be coding a lot, working on this big project. If somebody else needs help, go and help them. If you really can't, go and help them. You may not feel like you're qualified to help, like I felt. That's how I felt. If I wasn't number one, I thought I couldn't help anybody. I thought I was useless. But even if you're not number one, even if you feel like you can't help, you can. You can. And if you think the way I did, despite me wanting to help, I was like, I want to help this kid so bad, but I'm not good enough. You become selfish. Even though your intention is to help, you're a selfish person because you're not helping. So to avoid the mistakes that I had and understand why higher education means freedom, just value it, especially and especially respect and look up to others who do not have access to higher education like we fortunately have. So that's the big thing. Just to summarize, higher education means freedom to me, my family, and a lot of first-generation families because it gives you more cards to play with. It lets you make more moves. Other thing, you don't have to be the best to help others. Don't be selfish. Help others, even if you're not the best. Even if you think you can't help, you can. There's something you could do. There's something you could do to help somebody. So I guess that ends it. That's all I wanted to say. Again, this is going to be recorded. If you want to go back at any point and see anything that I said, you guys can. I will also send you guys all of my applications so you guys can see all of the information that I sent to schools. And look at the chat, write down everything that's in the chat, all of the keywords that I put here. Write down my email. If you have any questions, email me. Anything you want to expand on, anything you want to say to me, email me. Don't forget the MIT blog post that I sent. Read that. It's very good. And I think that's all. I guess we can get to questions now if you guys have any questions. You guys can think of questions if you don't have any. Thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. Yep. Yeah, you're welcome, Linda. You're welcome. I have one question here. If you don't mind, me asking, what college did you pick and what was your high school GPA? I haven't picked a college yet. I'm still deciding between Bowdoin College and Emory, so that's why I was talking a lot about Bowdoin. Bowdoin is one of my top choices. Yep. And my high school GPA, my school does not have a GPA out of 4 or out of 5. It's out of 100. And I had a 96 out of 100. So it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But most of the kids have over 90. So there's more kids in my school with more than a 95 average than kids with less than an 80 average, if that makes sense. So 96 sounds like a lot, but most of the kids in my school have a 96. It's a very good school. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. If not, you're welcome. Thank you for coming again. Have a good day. Go do your other stuff. Sorry for going so much over time. Thank you for staying though. I'll send you guys a recording. Email me. Look in the chat. Everything, guys. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Do some dance moves. Dance moves.